What's going on, everybody? Welcome into episode 41 of To The Show We Go, featuring Chris Henrique and myself, Andrew Parker. We got a special one today. We've had 9 guys who played for our guests today this past year in Worcester, and nothing but good things that we've heard so far. We'll dive into those in a little bit, but we have WooSox manager Chad Tracy. Now, Chad, no, we were just talking a little bit off air and everything, but now that you're back home for the offseason, what have you kind of been up to?
Well, honestly, I spent a lot of time just catching up with my family. My wife, it takes a heavy toll on her being gone for pretty much 7 months when you really break it down. And so when I get home, I do whatever I can to lighten the load on her. She goes back to work and does a little bit, and I kind of take the reins of, go do what you got to do, and I'll get the kids. So spending a ton of time with my kids, watch my son play flag football, watch my daughter play volleyball, take him to school, take him to the bus stop, and then just do everything and anything around the house that I know is going to need done before I leave here for another 7 months. So that's kind of been the theme of the off season, I guess.
Did it kind of weigh on you a little bit once you get closer to the end of the season and you're just like, holy cow, like it's been like you said, 7 months. It's a long time away from the family at one time. Does it once you get to the end, you're like, I'm ready to be back?
Yeah, for sure. I think, I would have been happy to stay for another 4 or 5 days this year to compete for the International League title or something. That's kind of cool and unique the way they've done it now, where even if you make the postseason, it's hard you only get 2 teams, but it's such a short commitment. Like you want to go after it. That being said, the season's longer than it used to be. When I was playing, the season usually it was kind of all lined up where everything kind of ended around September 4th or 5th. Now in AAA, you're matching up closer to the big leagues, and your season's longer than everybody else. So it drags out till almost, you're creeping up on October. So yeah, it's a long grind. And by the time you get down to the end of it, you feel like you're tired and you feel like you're pushing to the end, and hopefully you get to play for a championship or something. But if you don't, you're certainly happy to be going back to your family.
I did kind of want to. We're going to talk a little bit of baseball, obviously. That's what we do here sometimes, but we talk about a lot of stuff off the field as well. But the season this past year, it's me and Chris got to ride along with the team this past year, and it was a hell of an experience. I'm going to say that. So, but we noticed a lot of things. Obviously, like I feel like the first half of the season was very different from the second half of the season, but.
Yeah.
If you had to, I guess, talk about or describe how the 2023 year went for the WooSox, like what comes to mind?
Man, a lot of things come to mind. It's just a whirlwind season, I mean, starting first and foremost, and you thought like when you guys weren't around in 2022, but I thought we used a lot of players in 2022. 2023, we beat it. We used more. So the amount of players and bodies that came through the clubhouse throughout the season is the first thing that comes to mind. Whether that be younger guys that came up from Portland that earned a promotion to come onto our club, or veteran guys that were coming in and out, rehabs, everything. The amount of players was crazy. And it's a lot to manage and have that many different people coming through. But just the different phases of the season, and it just, when you go through that, it almost feels like you had 3 different rosters throughout the year, like 3 different phases of a season. It's like, here's the beginning, this veteran laden filled roster with, the Red Sox vets like Sogi and those guys, Fitzy sprinkled in, but we had the Nico Goodrums and the Palkas and, Caleb Hamilton, all these different guys on the club, and finding our identity was a challenge early in the season. We got off to a pretty good start there the first, week, and then we hit a 2-week just lull where we were trying to find ourselves. And then when we did, it was really good. And then, as you move on in the season, you always inevitably get to that point in the year where some of your veteran guys are going to have outs in their contracts. They're going to explore other things. It's just part of it. And then here came Steven Scott and Cedar Rafaela and some of these guys start coming up from AA. And all of a sudden, slowly but surely, the roster started to shift from very veteran heavy type roster to a more like, Red Sox developed from within, younger roster with a few veterans still left there to kind of hold things together. And that to me is the story of the year. But I was very proud of how much of the fluctuation of the roster went on, how our guys just continued to evolve according to what we had.
Yeah, you mentioned talking about seeing, the team evolve. It is actually from like just seeing it from like our perspective and our eyes too. You could see that, at the beginning of the year, not say it was clicky, but you can tell there was little pockets that was starting to form, and it was based on veterans and things like that. But as the clubhouse evolved and new players came in and, additions, subtractions, et cetera, though, you could see how it morphed. And really, though, more so as the guys who've played with each other throughout the system and how that's come up, you just see how the bond that's been created with those players and how that really transformed the locker room. It was impressive to see.
Yeah, it's kind of inevitable every year. It's AAA, right? Like there's always going to be just this stock load of veteran signs. This is your level. That's your immediate depth to your major league rosters. You got to have depth, right? So that's going to require bringing in people from outside the organization. Just like anything, not just baseball, you pile a bunch of people into a room that don't really know each other that well, and you're kind of staring around. You're just trying to gauge, like, what's that guy all about? What's that guy all about? And we went through that for that couple-week period, and it was just kind of, people were just quiet, they didn't want to rock the boat, like I'm new here, this or that, and slowly but surely, like Flo and myself, and then guys like Shuggy who've been around for a while weren't afraid to get the music going after a game, and just kind of loosen the room up and just let people know, hey, it's okay to be yourself in here. We want you to be yourself and let your personality come out a little bit. And when that started to happen, it really got fun with that group, because we weren't, that period of time, we weren't performing up to, we had some good talent, even with the veterans we had signed. We had a good ball club, and it took a little while for it to come out. And when it did, it got pretty fun.
We had Taylor Broadway on last week, and he opened up about his experience in AAA this past year, and it was unfortunate that with his Tommy John and everything. Yeah. But he opened up though about AAA, and he was kind of saying, that was his first taste of it, and his roommate was Greg Allen. Like he had a guy that has MLB time, so he said something that kind of stuck out to me that you kind of mentioned. It was a revolving door. He didn't realize how much of a revolving door AAA was with Greg Allen was his roommate until I think Greg Allen had something, like you said, like a clause in his contract or something, and he had to go, and then he added somebody new, and then like it's just like a revolving door. So seeing a young guy say that never been to AAA before, he's kind of like, whoa, like this isn't how AA used to be. We're all the same team,
Yeah.
I just thought it was interesting with guys like that.
Yeah, it is. I remember having a similar feeling when I played in AAA for the first time, but it is. It's every level you hit prior to arriving in AAA. Here's your roster when you break camp, and for the most part, minus there's little things that happen here and there, but for the most part, like that's the group you're going to kind of go to war with for the next 2.5 months. But then when you get to AAA, it's like there's a bunch of guys. There's your roster guys. There's your guys that get DFA'd, and he's gone, he's back, and this guy came down from the big leagues, and that guy's going up, and it's every day, and it's just the nature of the level. It takes guys a little time to establish, I guess, that veteran title where they've been around that, and it doesn't bother them anymore. And you just got to get used to it because you go there and pretty much. I wouldn't say quite daily, but you guys saw that this year was probably close to daily. There's going to be some type of transaction that was going on where somebody's going or somebody's leaving or somebody's coming. That's how it goes at that level. So the key is we tell them all the time, you heard me say it, like keep your head down, keep your focus on what you can control, right? Like there's a whole bunch of tons of things at the AAA level that are around you that are outside of your control that can become a distraction if you let it. And you have to really focus in on what can I control? Let me focus in on that today and nothing else. And guys get used to that over time.
I think too, one of the observations that, I had was just the way to, when you do deliver a message. I remember the first day on the media day, you had the whole group and we were all kind of like off to the side and out of the way. But, you had mentioned to the entire group saying, hey, there's going to be people in here that are going to cover the team all season long. And you kind of laid the law of the land of this is what they do. And I think the way that you went about opening that up, there was a little of that apprehension at first, but it made it easier for Andrew and I, and even the others, to kind of go in and talk to the guys. And I think they felt a little more at ease over the course of the season. So one of my big takeaways at the grand scheme of things is just your communication level of the way that you get through to your guys is really impressive. And even wins or losses, demeanor never changed. There was times where, you guys lost and Andrew and I knew our place. We're not going to go down there and ask you the same questions. You saw that player X walked 5 people, or, you didn't execute and score when you had runners and scoring. Like, you know what I mean? So we kind of knew what our place was when it came to that. But I think from that communication standpoint, that is a skill that I got to see firsthand on a level with a baseball team that I don't think people really understand when it comes to, because you have so many personalities that you're managing besides them being baseball players.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm glad you feel that way. Number one, that was actually something I didn't do in 2022. Was my first year there, and I think part of it was maybe not me personally not fully understanding the scope of the media that we would have, around us, during the course of the season, until I kind of got rolling. I was like, this is a kind of a big enterprise here. I should have known. It's the Red Sox, and we're fairly close to Boston. So that was something I talked to Bill Wanless about actually leading into 2023 in the offseason on something that he and I had spoke about. And he, Bill's wonderful. He's another sounding board for me. It's been around the game for a long time. And he thought, and we talked about that being an idea of not only at easing the media people that we'll have around, but also the players understanding this is part of your development as a player. Like you're a member of the Boston Red Sox, right? And you go to the big leagues, and there's a lot of media attention that comes with it in the AL East. So them understanding that's part of their responsibility on a given day. If people are in there and the time that they're allotted, the media is allowed to be in there, and they ask you, give them the 5 minutes of time that when you are able to, as long as it's not interfering with your schedule. But it's part of the duties, right? So I thought it was appropriate for them to hear that, and we'll probably do it again this year with our new crop of guys, under just having an understanding that's part of the gig. So, but no, I appreciated you guys as well. Particularly the games that are obvious, like, let's not go in and ask them the question like, hey, we blew a 4-run lead and we walked 6 and whatever. That's pretty obvious as to what happened. I don't really want to rehash it.
There's times it'd be like the 8th inning, and Andrew and I would be in the back of the press box, and Andrew would be like, "We're not going to go down, right?" I'm like, "Nah, no." I think us asking him about, tonight doesn't make sense. You
get an idea. It's pretty. Sometimes it's clear cut, and there's other times where it's not as clear cut, and those are where the questions come. But yeah, there's some, and I appreciate you guys' the feel you use. I know we throw that word around a lot in baseball, but having some feel, and my first experience with both of you, but I thought you guys, you displayed good feel within our locker room, and it was appreciated.
Thank you for that. But I will say there were sometimes just a little bit of me. You got thrown out of a couple games.
This
season.
I did.
I was like, we should go down there, but I'm like, I don't know, man. But
I don't know what the final number was. I was actually behaving really, really well. I think I had a little string there towards the end. It seems to happen where I felt like, man, I think I might only get kicked out once this year, and I think it ended up being 3 or 4 again. I think I had 5 or 6 in 2022, but yeah, I thought with the rule changes, there was a few late, with the rule changes and the fact that you don't have to really argue about balls and strikes much anymore. So I shouldn't get kicked out of many games, but there was still a few things.
Yeah, it was there was a part of me, I'm like, you know what? Like, he got thrown out in the 2nd inning. He's probably pretty cooled off by now, but it's okay. But I do want to comment on this before we switch lanes, but it was interesting. Joe Jakes came on the show, one of your trusted lefties this past year.
Oh, yeah.
And he was talking about something with the media aspect, and he kind of told us, he's like, guys, like, I pitched in Indianapolis when he was with the Pirates, and he was just like, he never had a single media member in the locker room around anything in AAA until he got to Worcester. And he's like, it was completely different. So I found that interesting.
That is true. I mean, that's fair. I just think it's the, like I said, the AL East, the Red Sox, right? Like that's a huge part of it. But when you're AAA club, and a lot of them are now, but when you're that close in proximity to your major league team. You're only 40 minutes away. It's going to draw people in, but I do think it's just, there's something that comes with playing for the Red Sox, playing in the AL East, that it's a little bit, now I realize it needs to be covered. It needs to be something that you talk about with your players and they understand it, because if they're coming from elsewhere, it may shock the players themselves. Like, whoa, like I wasn't expecting to see, 9 or 10 people in here after a game or before or after BP or whatever it is. And just making sure they understand that and how to appropriately handle it is important.
I want to talk about your staff last year a little bit. You had one. Oh, we're biased just because I guess we were around you guys a lot, but from top to bottom, I think every single guy in your staff was, treated us very respectfully. They, anytime we ever had anything, Paul Abbott, Flo, Montville, Getty, any of those guys, fantastic to be around. What was it like, I guess, being part of that, having that crew last year by your side?
Yeah. This year, 2023 in particular was fun because we had the same group. What was cool about this year is we for the most part had the same group of staff in 2022 as we did in 2023. 2022, just like I just described to you with our players and new free agents coming in and taking a period of time for everybody to kind of get to know one another or whatever. I spent a lot of time leading into the 2022 season, like calling those guys, reaching out to them, just having conversations, trying as much as I could to get to know them. And then getting to spring training, eating lunch with them, same kind of thing, like trying as much as I can to get to know them, make sure they know what I'm all about. But even still, you get to the season, until they actually work with you and see how you respond to situations, they don't really know. There's that uncertainty, right? Well, we kind of cut through all that red tape in 2022. And by the end of that season, I think we all had a really good feel for each other. So being able to kind of run it back and work together again in 2023 and all that legwork is done and we just hit the ground running was a lot of fun. And I think we had all learned each other. We knew how each other ticked. We knew the schedule, how I like to run a schedule and what I like done. They know how I like to do that. So all that was out of the way and everybody just worked and we learned each other's mannerisms. You could tell body language when he's upset, when he's not. And it just made for a really fun season. But they are a hardworking group of people and all of them have bright futures and they're fun. They're fun to be around. And I think what you guys saw, it leaks through when you see people that care about the players, like they go the extra mile. We all do. We realize what we're there for. The ultimate goal is not for us, right? It's for the 26 dudes or whoever the 26 guys are that are in that room at that time and doing whatever we can to help them be successful. And all of us and all of that staff understands that. So they're incredible people.
Have you, I don't know if you so you lived with Paul Abbott while
I did for 2 years, at least when my family wasn't in town. He stayed with me.
Do you have a story that the best story you could tell that's, I guess, appropriate enough for the podcast? But
away from the field, Abby and I.
Yes,
it's honestly fairly uneventful. I mean, if you can just picture one guy sitting on a chair, another guy sitting on the couch with a glass of Woodford after a tough loss or after a nice win. It didn't matter. It's going to taste a little bit different. And have a glass of whiskey, talk through the game, things that we really liked, what we saw, like, man, how about so-and-so tonight? Like, that's what we needed to see. Or, man, like, that was the guy had a tough, whatever it is. And we talk through it a little bit. Maybe it's a day game the Red Sox are on. We're watching the Red Sox in the background while we're talking. But we would just have a whiskey and kind of rehash the evening and talk about things that are maybe like right out in the forefront. Man, we should really get this figured out or whatever. And that was honestly on a pretty nightly basis. That's kind of what it was. It was nothing crazy. And, sometimes if it was an off day or day game, we'd make dinner and sit there and watch, like I said, we'd watch the Red Sox and make dinner and have a drink or whatever. And we'd talk about baseball all the time. It was literally how it was.
Interesting. I knew the Woodford would be involved, but
for sure. Yeah. I can't imagine how you figured that out.
I think that was the first thing I noticed when I went into the office. One of the first days was the Woodford in the corner. I was like, okay, it's good.
Yeah,
man.
It's always going to be there.
That and the bowl of line.
Oh yeah. That's Flo. That's Flo's touch.
Okay. So obviously the staff is going through some changes this next year, and I think only one has become official, which now there's a St. Louis guy on your roster there with your new bullpen coach Noah Junis, who I have heard nothing but great things about. The pitching coach from my old high school knows him pretty well, and my guy Michael Plasmeyer worked out with him for the past 3 years. Have you gotten a chance to speak? I'm sure you have, but have you gotten a chance to kind of look into anything that he's about?
I talked to Noah yesterday, and I'm comfortable talking with you guys about it because I know it's he's made it known on his social media that he's coming. So I'll say I spoke with him. It's important I do that. I did it with Getty, Abby, Monty, all those guys when I first got the job. So just called him. Nothing more than just wanting to check in, get to know him a little bit, where he's from, what he's doing in the offseason. I know his brother Jacob's been in the big leagues. I know he's worked with guys. I know he's got experience working with guys that have pitched the highest level. So really it was just about checking in with him and offering, congratulating him, welcoming him beyond what the Red Sox I'm sure have already done. And I know it's pretty awesome because I've been through the process. They do a heck of a job in the way that they go about acquiring people. But from somebody on the Worcester staff where he's going to spend his time, I wanted to offer my congratulations, but also to let him know if anything comes up between now and the time we go to spring training that you're uncertain about, that you want to know, how's this operate? How do we do this in Worcester? What's Worcester, whatever. Told him, you have my number now and you make sure you call me. So it's kind of my first opportunity to kind of, basically put my hand out and say, hey, I'm the manager. I'm here for you, whatever you need. So, and he'll take it from there. It seems like he's got a lot of experience, and I'll get to know him more personally when we get to spring training. But yeah, I did have a chance to speak with him.
It's a guy with some Mizzou ties there, so I'm always happy to get some Missouri guys in the locker room. You know that. So, we weren't gonna put you on the spot. I feel like me and Chris sometimes we were during the season we were kind of like, man, should we I don't want to go put him in an awkward spot and ask him about something, but
no, but I feel that answer though made me feel like I was back in the manager's office at Polar. You know what I mean? It got that comfort back because it sucked because I missed the latter end of the season, so it kind of brought me back to Polar Park. So.
Yeah,
my favorite Chad Tracy line.
Me, if there's something I'm either I'm not real sure of, I'll just tell you. If I'm not really maybe comfortable answering it, I may dance around it in a fashion that I'm trying to give you as much as I possibly can. I'm answer the question as far as I'm able to. That question there is fine, just because I know it's very public knowledge. The fact that Noah's coming, and I think everybody in the world that follows the Red Sox knows that. So beyond that, there's not a whole lot to report. And I wouldn't report anything beyond, if it wasn't public knowledge out there that had happened. So. I have my ways of answering what I need to answer.
Have you gotten a chance? I mean, I'm sure you probably have, but have you gotten a chance to speak with Andrew Bailey and Breslow? Have they kind of communicated, maybe not on such a high level, but just kind of, what the vision is and what, to be expecting out of the pitching department?
Nothing high level like that yet. Obviously they're very busy. Brez, I haven't had a chance to meet. I have been on some Zoom type calls that I won't get into details on, but there's definitely been, Zooms that he's put his face in front of people, which has been cool. I know Bales and I played against each other all the way coming up through the minor league system, faced him in the batter's box many, many times, and also worked with him for a year with the Angels when he first started coaching. He started out with the Angels. When Billy Epper was over there, they brought Andrew Bailey over, and that was how he got started. So I know, I've got a lot of experience around Bales, so I know what kind of person he is. Great dude, knows his stuff. So have some familiarity there, and then the rest of it I'll figure out as we go. This is a long process going through an off season and all they have going on right now, and trying to get a roster ready for the season. And they're taking the necessary steps, and the rest of it we figure out as we move through the rest of the off season, which we still got quite a bit of time. And then moving into spring training where you actually get to see people face to face and interact with them more. That's where the real stuff happens. So everything's moving in the right direction.
Got a little bit of movement on the roster. You're gonna potentially you should have between Oliveras and Benitez, who they signed in minor league deals, the lefties. But then yesterday there was the trade where Verdugo went to the Yankees, and you got 3 arms coming back. What was your immediate thoughts on those guys, specifically Fitz and Wiesert?
I don't know much, about Fitz or anything. I can just speak on. I know, obviously, you guys know Weissert like I do. We've seen him. I've seen him a lot the last couple of years. So I can just tell you that I remember in 2022, I think I might have voted for him as like the best reliever in the International League that I saw. He was closing games for Scranton in 2022. This year, he spent a little bit more time up and down, and I feel like there was times we ran into that where Scranton. We didn't see him a lot, but I know that feeling of like when you're managing, like if this guy's now become an immediate need for the big league team where you have to kind of like, maybe you don't see a guy pitch for a few days, and that may be something that's coming from up top. Like if they feel like they might need him in the big league. So he didn't pitch against us as much this year as he did in 2022. But he's a good arm, and he gets after it out there. That's the one thing I'll say. Watching him pitch is he is out there, and when he's pitching, he's mean, man. He ain't messing around. I came away very impressed with him both years. So beyond that, I don't have much to say. I haven't seen Fitz or anything. I've obviously read about his year in Somerset, and I know he's 21 years old. I know he had a heck of a season in Double-A, but I can't really comment more on it because I haven't seen him. But I can comment on Weissert having seen him pitch before.
So speaking of other teams that you faced this past year, we've had a few guys on that played on the Norfolk Tides championship winning team, and obviously they were one of the more impressive teams I saw come into Worcester, other than the Columbus team that early in the season. Holy cow!
The Guardians, like they had what 5 or it felt like they had 5 or 6 of the top 30 in MLB pipeline at one point, and it was impressive.
That's a series I like to forget. That series against
that is one of those where we didn't go down as much, but
goodness,
that was just impressive.
That was during that 2-week stretch that we discussed. Where you come in and you're looking at guys and they're staring in their locker looking for answers. And I looked at Flo. I was like, we got problems here because they just beat our brains in for basically a week. But yeah, it's I don't know if it was a combination, Chris, of what you said. They were very talented. And I also think we caught them at a bad time. There's just times you run into teams where they're just red hot, and we caught them at, I don't think they were quite that good, but they were very, very talented, and they just beat us down. That's just,
it seemed like every time you looked, Freeman was on base.
Yes. It felt like everybody was on base. Everybody was on base every time. We felt like we were doing mostly pitching, not hitting much, and we were out on the field on defense. They kept getting hits, and we were all in. After that series, it put us all in that search mode. Like I think we're pretty good, but are we? Because that wasn't very good, but we caught them wrong, and they were very talented at that time, So, anyways, go ahead.
No worries. I was gonna say though, we haven't had anybody on from that team, but we've had a few guys from Norfolk. We had a pitcher and a position player that got to face you guys this year. Are you going? I think something came up too. So we got on the topic of Buck Britton and what kind of manager he is and what he was doing in the clubhouse and everything. And did you ever have any insight on what they would do in the clubhouse after a win? Like what Buck Britton does?
No.
Apparently it gets better as the years have gone on, is what Josh Lester told us this past year. And this year they do a thing called Club Dub after a win. And he says if he gets big league money resources one day, if he gets a big league job, it's going to be incredible. Because he said that the strobe lights and the fog machine, they call it Club Dub. And I'm just like, do we need to pass this over to Chad Tracy for next year to maybe try to do something like this? But I didn't know if you were familiar with it at all.
No, I'm not. I'm not familiar with what they do. I will tell you, we do some things that maybe that our guys, it's not necessarily like I'm the ringleader of it, but it was something that kind of just graduated over time a couple years ago with Schreiber when John Schreiber was there, and it's just kind of carried over. So our room at times can get pretty rambunctious as well, but mostly led. And a lot of it takes. I like a lot of that stuff to be kind of led by your group. You know, it's like, what did they like, right? And we lost some of the guys that were participating in it a year ago, 2022. And this year, like, man, Shuggy grabbed the reins, and like, you know, somebody's got to go get to the music box on the wall there and like get the music started, like as the guys are coming back off, and Shuggy grabbed the reins on that. Like if we had won the game and Shuggy either didn't pitch or he was down or he knew, like he would kind of bust it inside and have stuff rolling before we even got back in the locker room. It was already going. So the details of what would go on, I'm not going to give you guys all that, but certainly our guys know how to have fun after a win. That's for sure. But I know Buck very well, obviously from managing against him the last 2 years, but I also spent a year in Baltimore Orioles spring training, my last year prior to retiring from playing. And I spent a year with the Orioles there trying to make their AAA club. And I spent most of the time in Buck's working group. So I know him, both of us from our time as players, and knew him to be a really good guy. So I know his personality. I think he's probably similar to me, but they, I know they had a damn good ball club this year. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, Club Dub was working, I guess. So that's why I was like, maybe we need to give Chad Tracy a little heads up, and he can send a text, be like, what can I do to incorporate something? But I will say on that topic too of did you pay any attention to the Baseball America that they named you the prospect manager of the year?
I knew it. I wouldn't say that I paid excessive attention to it or like, you know, framed the magazine or anything. But yes, I did know it. Flo paid more attention to it. Flo made sure everybody knew that had happened. You know, Flo is very in tune to everything going on around when people get honored for this. And he does a great job of reminding me of stuff. So when that happened, you know, I wanted to kind of just leave it be. But Flo made sure that people knew that. So.
I was gonna say, I knew that. Knowing how you are, I know that that's not something, like you said, you're not gonna cut it out and hang it on the fridge. But it's gotta be cool though, right? Like to have a publication like that name you as the like prospect manager of the year.
Yeah, it's flattering, very flattering. More so because it seemed as though, you know, like that was. That particular honors was voted on or was given through the suggestions of my peers, you know, people that I work against, you know, work against. And that's the cool part, because I have the utmost respect for the job, what it entails and how much it entails. So, and I know that, you know, my counterparts on the other side of the field are dealing with the same things that I am. So, I have a lot of respect for the people that choose to do that, you know, that choose to be in this industry and want to help these guys and know that all the stuff that you go through, you know, like to make it work. So, yeah, it was flattering knowing not so much, you know, just the honor itself, but where it came from was very flattering to me.
I have an important question for you. I've asked every single guest that's come on this show this offseason. So I've asked it 41 times. And I know that you've lived in a few different spots in the country, so I feel like you might have a good answer for this. And there's one right answer, but let's see what you do. Okay. All right, so it's lunchtime. You go get in your car, right? So you're wanting some fast food fried chicken today. You have every single option available as your choice. What are you picking?
I know what you're picking, because it says it on your Twitter profile, Zaxby's. What am I picking? Fried chicken. I'm going to Chick-fil-A.
I knew it.
I'm going
to
Chick-fil-A.
A very basic answer, but
I'm going to Chick-fil-A all day, every day. I'm getting a number one chicken sandwich, hold the pickle, putting mayo on it. I'm getting Chick-fil-A sauce, and I'm getting a side of 8 nuggets. That's what I'm getting.
Ooh, okay.
All day.
I do like
Zaxby's. I've been there. It's very good. I like mixing in the coleslaw and the toasted bread. No, it's outstanding. And I love that, you know, but Zaxby's is not a huge mainstay out here in Ohio. So I think a lot of that's a product of like where you live, you know, and what's available to you. Like Raising Cane's is more prevalent here. But But Chick-fil-A is, they're on every corner all over the country. But I love Chick-fil-A.
You know what I'm going to start doing, Chris, in the future? I'm going to ask this question, and then to lead off, I'm going to say, it's Sunday, and you want a fried chicken place.
So, that's a better way to ask it. Because I wanted Chick-fil-A actually this past Sunday, and I actually ran into that. I was like, damn it, it's Sunday. I can't go there.
Exactly.
So, I've been big in the Chick-fil-A sauce right now. I was before we jumped on. I can't really do fried stuff at the moment, so I can't jump into this fried chicken because they're opening a Raising Cane's, and it's probably maybe a 15-minute drive. And I do want to try after hearing everybody talk about these different chicken options. So I'm gonna have to do grilled chicken, but I've been doing just carrots in with the Chick-fil-A sauce. It's been my
there you go.
Chick-fil-A
sauce is great.
It's great.
The waffle fries dipped in the Chick-fil-A sauce is really something else, I'll tell you.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, honestly, Andrew, if it's Sunday, like I'm probably just not eating it just because I don't go to Raising Cane's very much, and if I get the urge, I'm just hoping it's not Sunday, and that Chick-fil-A is open, and that's probably where I'm going.
Well, if you see me down at the complex in February, down in Fort Myers, and there is a Zaxby's not too far down the road from the complex, and if I'm taking Alex Pinellas over there and we're going to go enjoy that, and Tyler McDonough can join as well. Those are my Zaxby's guys in the org. So
there you go.
If you see me walking around with it, just mind your business. It's we're getting to business down there. All right, so you're giving us a ton of your time. I got two last questions. They're kind of both random, and I want to know because he's probably going to be listening to this. So, because he'll text me randomly, be like, "Oh, like thanks for the joke shout out." So, what was your favorite Tyler Murray story of the season?
Oh gosh, that's a tough question because there's always a Tyler Murray. There's always stuff going on. It's just there's not a particular instance that just stands out. He's just Tyler. I just think when I think of Tyler, I just think him popping into the locker room and he's full of energy all the time. What's up, guys? What's going on? That's what I think of with Tyler. He's never in a bad mood. Like he's always in a good mood. He's always ready to go, full energy, talking a mile a minute, loves baseball. So nothing crazy. I'm sure when I get off this with you guys, I'll think of probably two things, that stick out. But for me, like mostly just that dude's high energy. Him and Jim together, like, high energy, ready to go every single day. Tyler Murray.
Yeah, every single person on that broadcast crew with Cooper and Mike Antonellis and Jim and oh my gosh, and those guys were incredible.
For sure. And Jay, when Jay's there and Jay's in there not as frequently, but all those guys we're blessed with an incredible group of broadcasters. When whoever's working that day or whatever, and Laura does the sideline stuff. It's a first-class group of people, that really has an idea what they're doing. They ask good questions and they're just fun to be around. So they're awesome.
Yeah. Go ahead, Chris.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, he texted me a few times. I know I would mention his name or whatever. And he's like, "Oh, thanks for the shout out." And I was like, "Okay, fine. We got to do this proper." And I know you would love it. So, Chris, emptying the bench. I got one left. If you got any last questions,
I would say, what was your favorite Bill story from the Bill from the Telegram Gazette? Because he had different. You never knew what to expect there's times where he would talk about the Dahlbeck home run that hit the duck boat, and that would turn into the most random story from 30 years ago. What was your favorite Bill story?
That's just it about Bill, though, is you do know what to expect. Like if Bill's in there, what's gonna come out, I don't know, but I am waiting for like the inevitable random baseball history moment that none of us know that he's gonna just fire out there. Something about Cracker Jacks or whoever knows what it's gonna be, but. Again, not a particular instance, but whenever Bill's in there, I'm like, something that none of us know is going to come out during the course of this before it's over. Usually right towards the end, right? Is like when it comes out, he kind of senses the questions are dwindling down, and he'll throw out some baseball history that none of us know. So it's fun. It's fun when he kind of, I think all of us are sitting there waiting to learn something from Bill when he's in the room.
I think I learned more about I learned more about like 1980 and 1990 Red Sox trivia than I've ever. I mean, I wasn't even born yet, and I'm like, I know a lot about the 1989 Red Sox because Bill Ballou before game was talking about the manager and how like the manager didn't give him the time of day, all the stuff. I kind of liked it. It was
yeah, it's cool. It is. It's cool. It gives you a blast into the past and things that we don't necessarily know about, or it's baseball history. He's a walking baseball history, and you learn something every day that maybe you didn't know, and then what's cool is inevitably when he does it, right, we take whatever he said and then we start comparing it to the game today. That's how it feels to me, is like, wow, this is how it was then. Here's where we're at now. Like, what do you think? What do you think about that? That's what he likes to say. But it always ends up being this compare and contrast, and really gives you a glimpse at like how much the game has changed and evolved over time.
Yeah, I liked because he would bring up like the late 90s Red Sox. He would be like, well, you may not remember when the Red Sox signed Jose Offerman. I'm like, no, I remember that. And I would go and be like, be able to, that was their response after move on went. And then it was almost like, oh, I can actually talk to you about this, like that portion of Red Sox time, because he would bring up the late 90s and some of the others down there be like, I don't really know what you're talking about, Bill.
Yeah,
so
I know it.
I get what you're saying, Bill. I got you. I got you.
Yeah.
So
it's a good mind though to be around. It's
no doubt.
He was a great resource. I saw him at Fenway one time, twice rather, and one of the times it was ironically he was sat a seat over from me, and if he did like a double take at first, like, I know you from somewhere, and I'm like, Bill, we see each other every day in Worcester, but just a very valuable resource. He's such a knowledgeable guy, and just it's looking forward to next year.
One day that'll be you guys, like you'll be spitting out, 20, back in 2020, and people will be looking at you like, huh?
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Yet.
So, that'll happen eventually.
We're not there yet. It's getting close though. I'm still on the right side of 30, even though my knees feel like they're not, but I'm sure you can attest to that a little better, Chad. But all right, so to finish this off, you kind of alluded to this a little bit at the beginning and things like that, but you're in the off season. You only have 2 months before you probably have to report to Fort Myers. How much do you get to tune out of baseball and just go to your regular? I know obviously you're saying you get to do stuff around the house and everything, but what does it look like for you day to day? Do you get to just completely tune out baseball and just be a dad?
I think early in the off season you can, when we finish up, I mean, not completely, because that first little bit I'm watching the playoffs and tuning into the World Series and just kind of seeing what's going on there. Then once that World Series ends, there's that period of time where baseball's kind of just ended and there's not a whole lot going on, And in that moment, now it's tough, right? Because the winter meetings are happening. Everybody's kind of, this almost feels like the unofficial beginning of next season, because the hot stove's going, there's people trying to make trades, or trying to do this, trying to sign free, all this stuff's going on. So I'm tuning in, right? I'm getting interested, and I want to see what's happening. And inevitably, for me, January 1st hits, as soon as the holidays are over, my brain turns. January 2nd, I'll wake up and be like, when's the season start? Because it just happens. You're like you said, you're just a little bit over a month away from reporting. The holidays is what everybody's focused on right now. That ends. Christmas is over. New Year's is over. Thanksgiving's over. There's no more holidays, right? And it's just it's getting close to baseball time. So right around now at the winter meetings, it gets your interest again. But prior to this, I really tried to just, like I said, go to my kids' sporting events. Mostly it's wake up at 6:30 and get my daughter ready for school. I walk her to the bus stop. My son goes in a little later. I drive him to school. So she gets off to school. I come back, have a second cup of coffee, take him to school, drop him off. And then I got that 9 to 3 window to rake leaves or paint this wall or repair whatever this needs and do stuff around the house, go to the grocery for my wife, do whatever I got to do, and then go pick up my son. And as soon as he comes back in the house, it's inevitably going to be, let's go throw the football, or will you throw me some baseballs? I want to hit, or I want to do this, and go do that. And let the kids spend some time outside. And then it's getting close to dinner time. And then rinse and repeat. We do it all again the next day. So there is that window of time where like that's all I'm really focused on, just because there's nothing else really to distract you. And the winter meetings kind of, and getting that stuff started kind of kicks everything off. It draws you in. I hop on my phone just to kind of check and see what's going on, if there's any news of different stuff, because I like to follow it, but still mostly, focused on the holidays and giving my kids a good Christmas, and my family's coming in and enjoying all that. And like I said, then New Year's will end, and it'll be like, I'll start pulling stuff out. I'll start messing with schedules. I'll start looking at who's been acquired, who could I possibly have, and what can I learn about that person? How was their year last year? Whatever. Like, does he get, who gets swing and miss? Who does? All that stuff will just start swimming through my head, and I'll get ready for spring. But that's kind of a glimpse at how the timeline goes for me, I guess.
Did the wife give you a long list when you got home and said, "This"?
I get a list like every day. I mean, yeah, I make my own list. Like there's a lot of things, like as far as like big picture projects that I want to get done prior to leaving, that I make my own list of like stuff that I know needs to get done. But hers is like, the little note that's on the table, like, I need this from the store, and this is just in the dryer. It needs to be folded, and I'm going to work, and you mind having these things done, by the time I get home. So that's just the daily list. But then there's a bigger list that I make too. So yeah, she's asking my help, and rightfully so. Like there's a 7-month window there that she's essentially a single mom. Even when she's out here visiting Worcester, let's be honest, like I'm at the field at noon, and I don't come back home till probably after 11 o'clock at night. So most of the day, the morning I help with, but most of the day she's a single mom. So I love her for that, and that she lets me, keep chasing what I want to do, ultimately want to do in my career. And she's supportive of it. And I know the sacrifices she makes, and they're big. So I try to do as much as I can for her when I'm home.
Yeah, hats off to Mrs. Tracy. We met your family when they were in town this past year. They're incredible. Your kids, it was awesome when they got to do the they were up with
the
Ben
Jumbotron,
that was cool. I'm glad they did that. But Chad, you gave us a ton of your time. We appreciate everything, and we're looking forward to seeing you again. We'll be down in Fort Myers in February too, so we'll be sure to say hello. But thank you so much for the time.
Look forward to it. Thanks for having me.